Hidden beneath the sands of Hawara in Egypt lies a mystery that has tantalized historians and explorers for centuries. A colossal labyrinth said to surpass even the Great Pyramids in grandeur. Ancient writers describe this sprawling complex as containing thousands of chambers, filled with artworks and secrets. A wonder of the ancient world now buried and forgotten. Modern technology, however, suggests that this legendary labyrinth might still be intact underground, awaiting rediscovery. Yet since a groundbreaking survey in 2008, virtually no progress has been made to excavate it. Why no one has explored this site further, and what incredible secrets might be sealed within its unexplored halls? In this deep dive, we explore the history, mystery, and speculative possibilities surrounding Egypt's lost labyrinth. Ancient accounts describe an unparalleled wonder. Over 2,400 years ago, Greek historian Herodotus visited Egypt and was shown a massive labyrinth temple near Lake Moeris in the Fayum region. He was awestruck, calling it a work beyond words that surpasses even the pyramids in its grandeur. According to Herodotus, the labyrinth complex had 12 great courts and 3,000 rooms, 1,500 above ground and 1,500 beneath. The above-ground chambers he walked through were richly adorned with carvings and paintings, including memorials of the homeland of each of the kings, and detailed panels of religious ceremonies. The lower chambers, however, were off limits. The local caretakers told Herodotus that the underground passages housed the tombs of the kings who built the labyrinth and sacred crocodiles, and they refused to show these lower levels to visitors. Even in his time, the labyrinth's deepest secrets remained closely guarded. Other classical authors reinforced how extraordinary the structure was. Geographer Strabo in the 1st century BC said the labyrinth was a work equal to the pyramids, and noted that a pyramid stood beside it as the tomb of the king who constructed it. Diodorus Siculus wrote that it was so intricate that any visitor would need a guide to find the way out, and he claimed the famed labyrinth of Crete built by Daedalus was directly inspired by this Egyptian original. Even Pliny the Elder in the 1st century AD marveled that the labyrinth had been built with such solidity that the lapse of ages has been totally unable to destroy it, outlasting the ravages of time, though locals had quarried parts of it. According to Pliny's account, some believed the labyrinth was built 3,600 years before his time by a legendary king. He cites names such as Pisichus or Tithous, or by no less than 12 kings, the last of whom was Psammetichus. Such statements, though confused, hint that even the ancients were unsure of the labyrinth's true origins. It was simply immensely old and already legendary. Who built the labyrinth? A mystery of origins. Traditions link the labyrinth to Pharaoh Amenemhat III of Egypt's Middle Kingdom. Amenemhat III from the 12th dynasty, c. 1850 BCE, built his pyramid at Hawara, and historical records credit him as the architect of the Great Labyrinth temple adjacent to it. Indeed, the labyrinth is often described as part of his mortuary complex, perhaps serving as an elaborate funerary temple or administrative center. In the 19th century, archaeologist Flinders Petrie even found carvings of Amenemhat's name and his daughter Sobekneferu at the site, supporting the attribution. However, we don't know for certain that Amenemhat III truly originated the structure. Tantalizing clues suggest he may have built on top of a far older foundation. As noted, Pliny's writings indicate some Egyptian priests believed the labyrinth dated many centuries earlier than the 12th dynasty. Herodotus was told that multiple earlier kings were buried in the underground chambers, which hints that the site may have had a long multi-generational significance. Could it be that Amenemhat III renovated or repurposed an existing ancient complex? Some researchers have speculated that the labyrinth could predate the Egyptian civilizations as we know it, perhaps constructed by an unknown earlier culture, with Amenemhat later claiming it for himself. While no concrete evidence yet confirms this provocative idea, the sheer uniqueness of the site invites that question. The true builders and age of the labyrinth remain an enigma, adding to the allure of what might be waiting below the surface. From glory to oblivion, the labyrinth lost to time. Not long after the classical era, Egypt's Great Labyrinth faded from history. By the time of the Roman Empire, the complex had reportedly fallen into decline, and later Roman and local inhabitants dismantled parts of it for stone. Over the ensuing centuries, the above-ground structures were largely quarried away or collapsed. The construction of the canals in the medieval period, 13th century AD, through the Hawara site further damaged whatever remained. The once mighty halls that had astonished Herodotus were reduced to ruins and then buried by the sands and mud of the Fayum Depression. By the 19th century, the site of the labyrinth was essentially forgotten. In 1888, British archaeologist W. Flinders Petrie excavated near Amenemhat III's pyramid at Hawara and discovered an enormous stone slab foundation or pavement, covering an area of about 300 by 400 meters, the likely base of the labyrinth. Petrie realized he had found the footprint of the legendary complex. However, to his disappointment, he found almost no walls standing. In his assessment, the labyrinth had been destroyed in antiquity, its stone plundered to build nearby villages, and the Greco-Roman city of Arsinoe formally shedded. All that was left, Petrie wrote, was the vast bed of stone and a few scraps of walls, confirming the layout but not the structure's contents. Concluding that nothing of the maze's interior had survived, Petrie did not further excavate into the foundation or search for underground chambers. The site was left alone once more, presumed to be an empty shell of its former self. Rediscovery in 2008. Evidence of an intact subterranean labyrinth. For more than a century after Petrie, the labyrinth remained elusive, regarded as a lost wonder that had been dismantled. That changed in 2008. A Belgian-Egyptian team of researchers launched the Mataha expedition to Hawara, armed with ground-penetrating radar and other remote sensing tools to investigate the site where the labyrinth once stood. This high-tech survey yielded a stunning result. The labyrinth isn't gone after all. Under the sand and water table, the team detected large geometric structures. Walls and chambers arranged in regular grid, exactly where the ancient writers said the labyrinth would be. In other words, vast parts of the complex still exist underground, preserved beneath the desert soil. Ground-penetrating radar scans of the Hawara labyrinth site, revealing linear features beneath the surface, outlined areas that likely correspond to walls and chambers of the ancient labyrinth. The 2008 Mataha expedition used such scans to confirm that a huge underground structure still lies next to Amenemhat III's pyramid. The Mataha expedition's findings were groundbreaking. The radar echoes suggested a network of rooms and halls on multiple levels, matching the size and layout described by Herodotus and Petrie's measurements. In fact, the expedition publicly announced that they confirmed the presence of an underground temple not far from the pyramid, essentially verifying that the lost labyrinth of Egypt had been found in situ. One of the project leaders, Louis de Cordier, reported that the grid of walls extended across a massive area, the footprint spanning roughly 300 by 250 meters, indicating that the legendary labyrinth was still intact below, likely filled with mud and water, but structurally present. Incredibly, what had been considered a mere myth, or at best a destroyed ruin, was revealed to be a very real subterranean edifice waiting beneath the sands of Hawara. The discovery, of course, generated excitement among alternative historians and curiosity seekers worldwide. It hinted that thousands of untouched rooms could still exist below, potentially preserving ancient texts, inscriptions, carvings, and artifacts that survived the ages. The possibility that the entire lower level of the labyrinth, those 1,500 underground chambers Herodotus mentioned, might have been sealed off and protected, after all, was an archaeologist's dream. The Hawara site suddenly became one of the most tantalizing prospects in Egyptian archaeology. And yet, in the years since 2008, that promise has remained unfulfilled. A puzzling silence. Why no excavations since 2008? Given the Mataha expedition's dramatic confirmation of the labyrinth remains, one would expect a full-scale excavation to have followed. Strangely, that has not happened. The 2008 results were published in a scientific journal and even presented at a university in Belgium. But soon after, information on the find went quiet. The team's request to perform archaeological excavations was stymied. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, the SCA, led at the time by Zahi Hawass, abruptly put a stop to further communications about the discovery, citing national security concerns. Essentially, the find was suppressed. The Egyptian authorities declared the site off limits and discouraged additional press coverage. Unbelievable. To this day, no official excavation permit has been granted to fully uncover the labyrinth's underground chambers. Insane. This official silence has understandably sparked frustration and speculation. One member of the expedition, citing the gag order, lamented that the incredible potential of this site is being slowly and irrevocably destroyed, both by inaction of authorities and by the rising water table in the area. Indeed, the Hawara region has a higher water table worsened by nearby irrigation, meaning that the longer the labyrinth sits unexplored, the more it deteriorates as groundwater gradually eats away at its walls. Time is of the essence. Yet Egyptian officials have shown no urgency to save or study this extraordinary site. The result is a maddening stalemate. The labyrinth is there, beckoning with its untold treasures and knowledge, but cannot be touched. Why would authorities hold back? Several theories have emerged. Egyptian officials themselves have offered little explanation beyond allusions to security or priorities. Some observers point to practical challenges. Excavating a site of this size beneath the water table would be logistically difficult and expensive, requiring massive pumping efforts to keep the chambers dry. The Hawara area is also near active farming land, which could be disrupted by a large dig. However, to many, these practical issues do not fully explain the total freeze on research, especially given the site's historical importance. This vacuum of information has fueled whispers of a cover-up. Might there be something at the labyrinth that certain powers don't want revealed? Those inclined to conspiracies note that declaring an archaeological find a matter of national security is highly unusual. Could the labyrinth house artifacts or records that challenge established historical narratives? Could the discovery of intact chambers filled with ancient inscriptions cause controversy or upheaval? Some have even suggested that the Egyptian authorities, protective of the heritage, feared an avalanche of alternative theories about lost civilizations or even Atlantean connections that such a find might spark, and thus slammed the door shut. While evidence for deliberate suppression is anecdotal, the fact remains. Since 2008, no one has been allowed to properly explore this site, and the world is left to wonder why. What secrets could be hidden below? The potential stakes of the Hawara labyrinth are immense. If the labyrinth's lower chamber truly survive, they could form one of the greatest archaeological caches ever found. Ancient historians believe the labyrinth held a repository of knowledge. Herodotus notes that its walls were covered in hieroglyphic inscriptions and paintings, preserving the deeds of kings and the details of temples. In essence, it was a monumental archive of Egyptian civilization up to that time. A later tradition even held that the labyrinth contained records from all 42 nomes or provinces of Egypt, gathered in one place for posterity. It's no exaggeration that within those chambers might be texts or artwork illuminating Egypt's history in ways we can scarcely imagine, potentially including periods and dynasties that are currently unknown to us. Some researchers have gone further and speculated that the labyrinth could hold the secrets that rewrite human history. Given its possibly immense age and the suggestion that it might predate Amenemhat III, the labyrinth could hold the key to mankind's history, including details about unknown civilizations and great empires that ruled the planet before history as we know it began. In other words, it might be a time capsule, not just of Egyptian culture, but of a lost chapter of civilization. This theory veers into the fringe, but it's undeniably tantalizing. Imagine an intact library of ancient knowledge, buried untouched since the cataclysmic antiquity, or evidence of a society advanced enough to create this architectural marvel in a remote past. The site's very existence, so vast and accomplished, already challenges us to explain how and when such a feat was achieved. Then there is the possibility of unexplainable technology or artifacts. Fringe theorists muse that if an advanced civilization, perhaps one from the last ice age around the time of the Younger Dryas 12,000 years ago, had a hand in this labyrinth, there could be objects inside that defy what we know of Bronze Age Egypt? Could there be remnants of ancient machinery, astronomical devices, or other technology unknown to modern science hidden in those sealed rooms? While mainstream scholars are rightly cautious about such ideas, the lack of any investigation leaves room for the imagination. We recall that Herodotus was struck by how the entire roof was made of a single enormous stone slab. Feats of engineering still hard to replicate today. If parts of the labyrinth were constructed with techniques or knowledge now lost, analyzing its construction could yield insights into ancient engineering at a minimum. And if by some chance it does date to a much earlier era, it might contain clues to that culture's capabilities, possibly bridging the gap between known history and prehistoric legend. Even within a conventional view, any discovery in the labyrinth would be monumental. Finding 3,000 rooms full of hieroglyphs and artifacts would vastly expand our understanding of Middle Kingdom Egypt. There could be royal archives, religious texts, sarcophagi of kings or sacred animals, statues and treasures, all preserved by the very fact that the complex was buried and left undisturbed. Unlike tombs that were looted in antiquity, a sealed labyrinth might still hold priceless treasures and documents. It's little wonder that archaeologists and ancient history enthusiasts are so keen to see it excavated. It could be the find of the century, if not the millennium. Conclusion: a wonder waiting in the shadows. The saga of Egypt's lost labyrinth is a blend of documented history, modern discovery, and fervent speculation. We know such a place existed and dazzled all who saw it in antiquity. We have strong evidence that a huge man-made structure still lies just beneath our feet at Hawara, conceivably intact and filled with the echoes of an ancient world. And yet, in the face of this tantalizing promise, we have done virtually nothing. Since 2008, the site sits in limbo, water seeping in, its secrets safeguarded only by inertia and sand. It's as if a giant treasure chest was located, but no one has bothered to lift the lid. This raises a glaring question. What are we waiting for? If the Hawara labyrinth could indeed hold records of lost civilizations or technologies beyond our current understanding, then leaving it unexplored is not just a missed opportunity. It's a travesty. Every year that passes, the risk increases that this archaeological treasure will be damaged beyond recovery, whether by natural forces or human encroachment. The world has relatively few chances to uncover a truly intact monument from deep history. For all we know, the answer to historical mysteries, perhaps even the confirmation of myths, lie within those halls, if only someone would investigate. In the absence of action, all we can do is speculate and press for the exploration of the labyrinth. The Egyptian authorities' hesitance only deepens the mystery. Perhaps there is something at Hawara they are just not ready for us to see. Or perhaps it's simply bureaucratic stagnation and fear of the unknown. Either way, the onus is on the archaeological community and Egyptian officials to recognize the value of this site. The lost labyrinth of Egypt could transform our understanding of the ancient world. Until it's finally excavated, however, it remains an entombed enigma, a monument that has survived for ages, teasing us with its potential and challenging us to bring its secrets back into the light. So what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. There's even rumors of a large metallic tic-tac shaped object in the center of the labyrinth. What do you think about all of that? Let me know in the comments below, and do not forget, you are not crazy. You are awake. Thanks for watching The Drip System. Bye.